Hey there friends, and thanks for joining me. And recently I just did a video about the front yard berry garden that I did, and basically an update on all the stuff that we ended up planting in it, and I thought it was really fun to do. So I wanted to do a quick video about the fruit trees that we have chosen to plant this year and where we've planted them, and maybe even a little bit about each one of why we chose the variety we did, and even the locations that we chose to put them all. So, many of you know I recently moved not long ago, I guess like half a year ago now, and I moved away from a bunch of established fruit trees, which was pretty hard. They were all really big, they produced a lot, and pretty regularly, and so I was really sad to have to move away from them, but it's okay. We have to start over again here, and it was really fun to actually plant a new little fruit orchard. So the first one that I want to tell you about is this tree behind me. Maybe I should have put it in a little different spot. I actually put this in my front yard, which is why it's so loud, I'm sorry, because it actually makes a pretty good ornamental tree. I planted two of the fruit trees that we planted this year in the front yard, and I chose the two that I felt were the most ornamental, and then that's why I chose to put them here. So this one behind me is an apricot, or an apricot, I guess it's that tomato thing, but this apricot tree is a golden sweet variety, and I chose the golden sweet for several reasons. It's a freestone variety, which is really important. That basically means that the flesh doesn't stick to the pit. Have you ever tried to can and you got some peaches or something, and then all of the peaches, like, it just sticks to the pit really bad? Well, it makes canning a whole lot harder, or even dehydrating or whatever, when you're cutting them open, processing them in whatever way. It makes it a whole lot harder when you have fruit that's non-freestone. So I tried to make sure that all of the fruits that we were planting was freestone. So there's first and foremost. The second thing is that it's really sweet little apricots. And I also wanted something that was going to, at least do okay when we were canning them, and then also to dehydrate. And I felt like this variety was really good. But we got this tree from Home Depot, and so far I've been really impressed with it. The second tree we have, I can't actually show you. Maybe I'll show you in a few minutes, but it's actually right next to the road, and that's going to be too loud, so I'd rather talk about it here. So it's a Stanley Plum. I really wanted, well, I'm not really a fan of plums, to be honest. I feel like their skin is kind of like bitter. And so I wanted one that didn't have bitter skin if we were going to plant a plum tree. And that's what we found. We found this at a garden supply store that we have around here. And the Stanley Plum is basically the industry standard for prunes, which I think are delicious. I know a lot of people think they're only for, people who have digestive issues, but honestly I think they're delicious, and my whole family agrees. And so we all eat them, we really like them, and they're very healthy to eat. So the Stanley Plum was a good choice for fresh eating. You can can with them, you can dry them, obviously, and yeah, it was just a really good all-around plum tree, and it's really pretty. I put it out by the road because it has this beautiful branch habit where they kind of like come up and then they arc forward. And all the little twigs are actually going to be the main branches of the tree later on, so I know it's going to look really pretty. Okay, so the next tree is going to, actually the next two trees are going to be some peach trees. We got both of these peach trees from Walmart, and the reason mainly was just cost. This peach tree behind me was just $21, and my husband works at Walmart, so we get a 10% discount, which is fantastic. And it's a sugar princess. I chose this one for several reasons. The first reason is because it has a nice upright growth habit, and I kind of needed it to do that in order to fit in the spot that we have here. It also produces really sweet peaches, which is really great. It is very cold hardy, which is obviously always a plus, and it produces, fruit pretty early. And so the second peach tree I had that kind of peach tree at my last house, and I know that it can take a long time before it finally starts bearing fruit. And so I really wanted one that was going to start growing earlier. So that's why we chose this one. And then the other one I'll show you in a second, but I'll probably just show a quick clip of it. But it's an Alberta peach. And Albertas are probably the most common standard peach out there. And they really do grow very well. They, like I said, take a long time before they start producing fruit, but that's not a big deal. Honestly, I didn't even plan to plant two fruit trees, two peach trees, but we went ahead and made that happen, and then changed around our landscape design a little bit because I found that peach tree at Walmart for $10, and again 10% discount means it was $9, and so it was just too cheap to pass by. And peaches are probably our family's favorite fruit, so we're not going to end up with too many peaches. Here's that Alberta peach tree. Isn't it cute? Okay, so trees 5 and 6 are actually pear trees. We only planned on planting one tree originally, and so I bought the kind of tree that I wanted, and then while we were out and about, we found another pear tree, and my husband really wanted that one. So we changed around the landscape design to make it fit, and it totally is going to fit. I'm actually happier with this than the original design, so that's pretty cool. The one in the back was the one that I wanted. This one was is a Bartlett pear tree. Bartlett pears are my favorite. They actually hold up pretty well when you can them. They're excellent for fresh eating. I think they're one of the best pears for fresh eating. And they also can freeze well if you need them to. You can make pear sauce out of them. They're just a really good all-around pear. And then this one here, the one in the front, is actually the one that my husband wanted, and it is a grafted pear tree. It has 5 different types of pears all on one tree. And we got this one, the Bartlett pear, at Home Depot, and then this one, the grafted one, we got at farm supply store that we bought the other one, the plum tree, at. And so the different varieties of pears that this one has is, again, Bartlett, which is totally fine. It is red Bartlett, which I thought would be really fun. Comies pear? Comies? I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Flemish, and a Seckel. This one right here is the Seckel. So 5 different types of pears all on one tree. I'm really excited about this because my last house we did not have any of these grafted trees. They were always a lot more expensive. And this year they actually had these, grafted ones for really not that much more than the standards. So it was able to fit within our budget. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, and for tree number 7, this is actually an apple tree. We got this one at Walmart, and I have been very impressed with how well it's worked out. This has probably been the fastest growing tree of all the trees that we have, and it's kind of making me wonder if it's truly a semi-dwarf. It's actually a good thing that we put it in this spot because there's tons of room for it to grow, so even if it got kind of big, it's totally okay. And my favorite types of apples, are Fuji and Gala. And I thought one of those two would probably be really great, choices. However, I found out that, they're not really all that good multi-purpose apples. We needed an apple that would taste good picked right off the tree, that could handle being frozen, it could handle being dehydrated, it could handle being baked into a pie. And so we really needed an all-around, multi-purpose apple, and that's why we chose this Cameo. Cameos are probably my 3rd favorite apple. And so they're still very good, and I'm really excited about it. And honestly, this little tree has really impressed me a lot. So I'm really excited to see how big it can get and how many apples we can get off this thing. Okay, and this is tree number 8. And it is a cherry tree. And it is another grafted cherry tree from that same farm supply store, and which I was really excited. They had all sorts of grafted trees that were very reasonably priced and very high quality. So this one is another 5-in-1. It's a Lapins, Black Tartarian, Sam, Montmorency, and Bing. So that is 4 sweet cherries and a tart cherry, which I thought was pretty exciting, except for that I wanted a few more tart cherries because I do like cherry pie and tart cherry juice and that sort of thing. So we actually added, if you could see these back here and over there, they're actually 2 tart cherry bushes. So they can help, add more tart cherries to the whole mix here. But going back to the tree itself, we chose this one mainly because it is grafted, and it is important to note that all of the trees that I have shown you so far are self-fertile, which means they can produce fruit with just one tree. Right now, there aren't any sweet cherries on the market that are self-fertile, and you need at least 2 so that they can cross-pollinate in order to get fruit. So a grafted cherry tree like this is an excellent choice for someone who doesn't have a lot of room for a bunch of cherry trees, because now all on the one tree, and the bees don't even have to try and wander around the yard to find them in order for it to cross-pollinate. They can just go around in the same tree, which is fantastic, and then they can cross-pollinate, and then you can get fruit. So yeah, that was the main reason why we chose this tree, and I'm really excited to see how well it does. Here's another quick look at those 2 tart cherry bushes, and then just for fun we actually added a 3rd cherry bush, and this is a sweet cherry bush. So I'm excited to see how these go. I've never planted these before. Okay, so here are trees 9 and 10, and they're the last of the trees. We originally planned on planting about 6 or 7, hopefully 7, but the reason we actually ended up being able to go with 10 trees is because they were actually cheaper than I thought they were going to be, so they fit in the budget, which is fantastic. So the one over here, this is Blushing Delight. It's a columnar tree. I know when you first saw these, you're like, oh my gosh, these are way too close together. Actually, they're not. They're planted about 4 feet apart, and their spread is about 2.5 feet. Yes, 2.5 feet, because they're a columnar, which means they grow like a column. And when they produce fruit, they actually produce fruit all along like the main center branch, or tiny little branches that stick out from them just a little bit, which is fantastic. You can fit in a ton of fruit trees this way, but they are a little more expensive. Out of all the fruit trees in my yard, these will actually stay the smallest because they're a true dwarf, whereas all the other trees were a semi-dwarf. And so they're going to produce the smallest amount of fruit, but they were also the most expensive. I got these at Lowe's, which is a pretty good place to find fruit like this, you know, specialty fruit trees. And so, yeah, that's why we chose them. We also wanted them to sort of grow in this area and fill it in to where the whole thing sort of turns into like a hedge. So we have these apple trees right here, and then we have the cherry bushes down that way, and then they can all grow and fill in and, you know, kind of become a living fence, if you will. So the Blushing Delight it's basically a sweet apple that's mainly used for fresh eating, and then this one is a tart green apple. It is more comparable to, say, like a Granny Smith, which is better used for like pies. They're to the north side of my garden, and so they're gonna look really cute here, and I've been really impressed with how well they've worked out. So there you go, there's a tour of my little backyard orchard, I guess you could call it. I planted it around the outside edges of the yard so that everything would have the proper amount of spacing. Of course, when you plant, you always want to begin with the end in mind, so you want to, you know, consider how big they can get and then plant according to that, not when they look small like this, because they don't stay small like this forever. And so yeah, that was really fun. I really enjoy this new fruit orchard, and I really hope that it does really well for us. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Frugal Green Girl, and we'll see you next time.